Good evening, everybody. Welcome once again to another edition of Thinkly Talks. We are very privileged to have with us today Sanjay Tripathy to really speak to us about this very, very hot topic about whether AI will really take away our jobs. Will it snatch away our jobs, right? So welcome, Sanjay, once again. Sanjay is a seasoned business leader with over 30 plus years of experience in marketing, sales, e-commerce, digital partnerships and strategy across multiple industries like FMCG, consumer goods, telecom and financial services in India and South Asia. Sanjay, in his career, has worked with marquee brands and names like PepsiCo, Mattel, Reliance, HDFC Life, and has worked as a fintech and insurtech expert for consulting companies like McKinsey and BCG. Sanjay is also an investor and advisor to many startups and institutions, and he's recently co-founded and is the CEO at BRISKPE, a cross-border payments platform for MSME. So, Sanjay, wow, you've really been keeping busy, right, over the last 30 years.
Yeah, so I'm also a marathoner. I actually run marathon on a regular basis. So wow. That keeps me busy.
Wow, that's awesome, right? So I think let's jump in by addressing the elephant in the room right away. So Sanjay, are we all going to get fired?
I think there are many discussion on that. So obviously the numbers may not really say that, what is but if I just quote the numbers somewhere, they talk about 800,000, 8 million jobs will be replaced. I was looking at a World Economic Forum, they're talking about, 1/4 that looks more likely. 1/4 of the jobs will be affected. What it means is that, 12% out of that will be probably not required anymore, and 10% of the jobs will require reskilled kind of thing, to sustain those jobs. I don't think, it is all getting fired is the right thing to really talk about. But yes, that will make a huge impact in us. And, like any changes, if you remember, we are the early stages when the computer was making a difference to our lives. I still remember WordStar as a document where you used to make the, rather than typing it as a WordStar in the MBA schools kind of thing. So everybody thought computers will come and take the jobs. Anytime any new things comes, if I have to say one line, yes, it will replace some jobs. It will also create some jobs. It all depends on which side of the link you are in. If you are ready to reskill yourself, ready to learn something new, obviously you will probably can use this opportunity to a better extent. But if you just stay and don't do anything, probably it might affect your job.
Right. No, I think that's a good point. I think, we've obviously, all of us have kind of grown up with PCs. We've seen the first generation of, 286, 386 Pentiums, and I think right from the start, from the dawn of PCs, whenever there has been a PC, there has been an AI, maybe a middle version of it, but there obviously has been an AI. I think the reason people are obviously kind of getting a little more spooked than normal this time around is really because about the kind of AIs that have evolved. So what we call as analytical AIs versus, let's say, generative AIs. So if you let's say 2 or 3 years back, if somebody were to ask you that, listen, Sanjay or Vivek, how do I ensure I don't get obsolete? You would have just told them that, listen, all the left brain jobs, the jobs of which involves analysis, a job which really needs you to kind of do computation or whatever, the left brain jobs are probably going to get obsolete. So if you really want to stay ahead of the curve, focus on arts, focus on design, focus on strategy, focus on creation. But I think the problem that's what's really happened is, I think ever since the onset of LLMs, and chat GPTs, I think people have now kind of been shaken up because it seems to be affecting the right brain jobs. In fact, no small reference to this, but 160,000 actors and screenwriters went on strike in July, in Hollywood, right? Really protesting again, apparently streaming. But the bigger sense was really about the concern was around AI and how AI would actually make the job redundant, So any reaction to this? How this generative AI, chat GPTs are really coming in a big way?
No, what you said is right. Initially, it was like, AI is nothing but, during our time, we call it machine learning or analytics. So it started with analytics, then we call it machine learning, then it is AI. It is about the kind of data and how machine is reading the data and how fast the machine is reading the data. So what you said initially, it is correct. It was, it was taking out the repetitive processes, data-driven, repetitive, rule-based kind of thing. So what is rule-based means, every time a computer tell her if this is what will come, and 100% time, the same action will be repeated. So that is the kind of jobs, as you rightly said, accountant, clerks, computer, like, the bank clerks, accountant. But, it was gradually the same jobs were replaced by the PC during PC time also, right? Like, and, you would see more of ATM machine coming in, nobody, if you ask the question to our generation, last 5 years, how many times you've gone to the bank? Inside the bank, you'll probably say nil unless you had real some issues, right? We maximum had gone on to ATM machine kind of thing. With UPI coming in, you may not have gone to that ATM machine also. Like, there are so many things. So it was more taking out that stage. But what you said is right. Repetitive AI is learning, and it is learning from your behavior and trying to make a prediction kind of thing. And more likely, it is trying to give a very closer to correct kind of prediction. See, today, if I want to do this talk, I just ask ChatGPT, what should be the best way to give this talk. He will give me the talk points and talk about it, right? So it becomes our job so much more easier. I don't need, in a previous kind of thing, if you remember, I was a CMO. If I have to go and speak somewhere, I'll tell some of my junior to really, why don't you really bring out some of the good talk points kind of thing? Give me some material so that I'll read and go. See, today that you don't have to today, if you look at today, if someone from RBI is coming to give a speech, then somebody has written a 20-page document. See, today no one is required. You can just say, I'm RBI governor, I want to give this topic. You just ask ChatGPT, he'll give you 20 pages to really talk about. So what it has done, it has really ability to learn and ability to find out the key points and bringing it forward. That is what's scaring people, because see, 80% or 90% of things what we do can easily get replicated. I think the fear people are getting that the easy part of the job, again, easy part of the thinking can always get replaced. That we never thought that is possible. I think that is what's scaring people up. But what I need to see that, what you can do with it. I think what we need to think that, if this is gone from my horizon, what I can do with the rest of the time. That is what, if you think that way, it will really help you. See, for example, I'm now doing a cross-border payment startup. If 5 years back would have asked me, can you do a cross-border payment startup? I would have said no, because so much risk involved. And as a fintech startup, I don't know how to really look at the AML risk, how to look at the money laundering risk. But today with the generative AI, if I do an AI engine in my backend, that risk part can be risk and compliance part can majorly taken care of. So rather than my fear of how to manage that, I can really look at a new age solution for my clients and more of a cost effective solution, because instead of putting 50 people to really do that job, today with engine and a couple of guys, I can really do that. But what you cannot replace, and what we need to really fundamentally think is that how we can be irreplaceable, rather than thinking of what AI can take from us. I think individually we have to ask this question: if this is what the change is happening, what will make us irreplaceable? What are the kind of things which you can bring to the table? Rather than asking me, will AI hire me? What I need to ask that, why should someone hire me? Or why should someone keep me in the job? See, once we ask this kind of question, we'll definitely get answers. Because it is not that AI comes with nothing is required. AI also need ethical and social way of monitoring it. AI also needs someone to really provide the data, because see, AI can only read, even today also, AI can only read the data what is available. Just imagine if all the scientists and innovators always looked at what is available, then all the new things, even AI would not have come, right? So that way we need to, what it is pushing us to say that, leave the mundane work, go more towards your creative side, more towards innovation side, and you can really sustain in that area.
Yeah. No, wonderful answer. So I think what I'm hearing you say is that, look, first of all, if you're in a job, focus on what are the places where you can become indispensable, irreplaceable. I mean, really, where you can really add value. Secondly, see how you can use AI to kind of expand the scope of your job, rather than just kind of being contained, because the 70-80% of the stuff which is repeatable, which is automatic, that's really not the area to be focusing. Really focus on the edge of your job, where you can really add value, right? So, no, great answer. In fact, there are a lot of questions coming in right now from on the community. But before I pick up one or two, you made a pretty interesting point about the way AI models have been designed. You talked about machine learning, and I think the early version of machine learning was really what we call a supervised learning. Where it was very, very focused on input to output mappings. It really taught you simple stuff, that you could use AI to, let's say, for example, figure out whether a mail that's come to you, whether it's a spam, whether you could do speech recognition, whether you could even do driverless stuff, right? But I think a lot that has, again, kind of captured, and I think it's really making people think twice about, is deep learning that has really come on over the last 5-7 years, right? Sanjay, am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay. So, so like, for example, if I think what really set the cat amongst the pigeons, you could probably say is what's happened over the last 4 5 years, which is really about deep learning. Because I mean, that's really a model which allows the AI to continuously learn on its own, kind of look at complex A to B scenarios, look at multi-layered parameters, right? And I mean, it really works in a way which is very similar to how a human thinks. So I think that is again another reason. While of course we talked about, analytical was generative, but I think this whole human-like behavior that the AI started, kind of showcasing is really different. I mean, I just look at a case in point. Let's say, for example, chess. I mean, I've been a chess player for many years, right? And early in the 90s, we would always have IBM, computer like a deep think or whatever would kind of keep challenging Kasparov, and it would always lose against it. So people would actually say that, look, chess is a place where the computers can never better a grandmaster, let alone a player like of Kasparov's caliber, right? But eventually you had Deep Blue, which in I think 1997 kind of finally defeated Kasparov out there. But if you were to look at the way Deep Blue was architected, it was a very specialized software focused only on playing chess. It had months and months of training, lots and lots of training from grandmasters which really taught it which is the best moves, which are the best openings, teaching it rules like the queen is strongest piece out there, and stuff like that. But cut to 2017 when AlphaZero was launched, within 24 hours, I mean, all that the programmers did was teach it the rules of the game, gave it no training, didn't tell them which piece is better, what should the opening moves be, what did Bob Fischer do, and stuff like that. And within 24 hours, it had actually beaten all the players out there, which had beaten all the Stockfish and all the other, programs out there, and it was stronger than, let's say, even a Magnus, right? So I think what people are seeing, this whole kind of human-like behavior that you are now seeing that, this AI has developed, that is also kind of causing a lot of concern, right? In fact, even Elon Musk was saying that we need to start regulating, So any thoughts about that,
Yeah, so I think, I think what you said is concern is really real. I think more about ethical. There are multiple, if you look at problem areas, there are multiple problem areas. It is about how ethical is this, what are the kind of things, it will be under control. So once we have seen enough movies to scare up how AI can run it on its own, it will not listen to your human masters also. And then about the privacy concerns, because like all these deep fake videos. See, today it is so easy, you have not said something, but I can create a video on your facial expression because it can learn your facial expression again with your voice, and it can create a video without saying the same thing. It can create create riots, it can create war, it has got potential to do anything, Technology with someone who want to disrupt with AI, they can do a lot more things. Similarly, the biases and fairness, it is training on data that is also running on biases. What we used to say in insurance is I was in insurance, as if you look at insurance is never really bought by person, really analyzing, it is basically sold and most likely it is missold, So,
right.
Whenever you are doing analytics, it is basically to missell to more missell, right? Because you have bought a pension plan which you don't require, but because you have bought a pension plan, it will now tell you to buy an annuity plan, because that is more propensity to buy kind of thing. See, that is where the biases can be more accentuated, the fears can be more accentuated, the fairness will actually go because the society behaved in a particular way. And more of the people anyway behave that way. So AI is not learning new things. AI basically making it much more, basically the spread of the disease much more faster kind of thing. And the lack of control and security risk. What happens, if there is a cyber attack and they really retrain the AI to think in a very different way. So the risk and today, if you look at, there is a lot of good things. I think the good things, if you remember during IBM Watson days, they were talking about like helping a doctor today, how to do an operation. So today I can give you 5,000 different cases, how this has happened, do more precision-led operations. So there are a lot of positives, but the same time, the risk is much, much more higher. I think what it is needed that, that is what you're saying is right. That is an existential threat where the individual is really fearing that, his long-term is not secure. Like an applied can be applied path can be disrupted by AI, it can be taken to some other destination. There are many things can happen today, which you think it was not thinkable, it is completely unthinkable, can come into picture. Okay, like loss of creativity. See, creativity that can like that is where the screenwriters currently in discussion. So what is important is when we are doing this model, it is also important to have proper putting proper framework around it. I think what is required is the AI framework. Like now we are talking about a blockchain framework. So between countries, there has to be an AI framework, has to be driven like, more like a global AI framework. And every model development has to follow a framework. So it is required to have a framework around it rather than everyone is following their own way of really developing it. Second is like, from human beings to stay ahead of the curve, I think 3 or 4 areas they need to continuously focus on. One is critical thinking, creativity, and emotional intelligence. See, look, AI is a machine developed by somebody else. What is in it in my hand? I always look at, in life, there are a lot of challenges, but what is in my hand to really change it? If I look at the 3 skills, if I develop in a higher extent, critical thinking, creativity, and emotional intelligence, no AI can really impact me in my job area to a major way. For example, I'll just give an example. Let's say take customer service or caregiving. So basic level of customer service can be taken care of AI, right? With a chatbot, we have seen, the early stages chatbot, it can replicate a human being's voice, it can do everything. But look at a caregiving and a human touch kind of thing. That AI cannot take it. So if you meet someone in the hospital bed or the nurse's job, when a nurse is personally meeting and giving that assurance, that cannot be taken by the AI, right? So we have to take out things now, what can really help in terms of keeping us ahead. At the same time, how as a society we need to help to follow certain, like, help the governments and support the government or support the institution to follow certain frameworks, so that it is not like what we call as a rogue AI. It should not turn into a rogue AI, or countries or institutions should not be able to use at a rogue way. So obviously it's a very early stages. Like any new technology comes in, it has got both positives and negatives, and that we saw in the nuclear technology also. So I think, see, if you look at after that nuclear bomb, that Hiroshima Nagasaki, like, that Oppenheimer movie is a great example. That guy who has actually created that, he went against it. So I'm sure, like, yes, AI-led disaster is waiting to happen. But there are different actions currently happening so that disaster can be registered and it will not really go forward. And even if that happens at one particular incident, like we are saying, like, autonomous car. So autonomous car has not got approval still in many other places. Obviously, they're learning, they're trying to improve upon. And we are like a Tesla autonomous car, it still, 1 out of 1 million cases still gets into accident for some strange reasons, right? So those kind of things will be there, but this will coexist. For us, what we need to see is how can we take control in our own hands rather than getting scared and, getting fearful about AI.
No, wonderful. I think that's a pretty balanced and a very nuanced answer, And so there, the questions coming on the community, and in fact, you've probably already answered Rahila's question around ethics when you talked about, the deep fakes and everything. Shaunak has an interesting question. He said, with huge amount of data required for large language models, and not to speak of large computing power required, is there a danger of concentration of power in hands of large companies? So any thoughts about that? Because, obviously, in fact, there was this very interesting question that was when Sam Altman was visiting. I think we all probably saw the clip, right? And Rajan Anand, asked him a very interesting question saying that, what does it take, if you have to build a ground of foundational framework in India, right? I mean, maybe not with $100 million, but, maybe with $10 million, can we actually, do that? And Sam Altman said, don't even bother going down that path. So your reaction, I mean, this doesn't seem to be getting democratized. It seems to be getting aggregated.
Yes. So again, it's we only have given our data, right? We have given all, why Facebook is getting into a lot of these issues, because Facebook actually monetized us. So anything which is come as a free, we are the product, that's the famous joke. So we have given all our data to everyone, to as many people as possible. So previously, this data is disjointed. If you look at, our parent generation will probably give the ATM number to someone trusted also. Like, tum jaake mere ATM se paisa leke aa jana, So we have given our data. Our data is available in every place. If internet you go and search, even your signature will come in the internet today. So the data is always available. We have never taken control over our data. And today, obviously, the bigger companies has got a lot more money and technology and resources to mine it, and mine it to their advantage. So that is what we saw. Like, even Cambridge Analytica is not a very big company; it is a very small company, but they can really change American election, right? So what I want to say that it is not just big companies, because our data is available. Anyone can utilize the data and create model and really impact us. It is not that I'm not really worried that only big companies can do it. Any smart company can do it, as long as it knows how to really do it. Again, I'll give you, because as a marketer for a very long time, our behaviors are not dependent on all variable. It is not what you are, because you are doing this 200 things. I can bring it down to 3 or 4 variables to predict how your action is. So it is not about getting a lot of data. It is getting the right amount of data to predict. See, for example, in insurance, we used to predict someone will pay a premium or not during those days if he has given an email ID or not. If someone has not given an email ID in his this thing, more likely he'll not pay a premium. And it was right 80% of the time. So what I'm saying, so it is not about huge amount of data. It is amount of, see, once I know the model, see what happens in a model, you feed all data, but 5 or 6 variables or 20 variables or 30 variables are at the key dependent kind of thing. So if my worry is that, people will start learning these are the 5 or 6 important variables. And there are a lot of mushrooming companies, which will be like, rogue companies will come in and they try to exploit the things. I'm more worried about that. Big companies still can be managed. They obviously managed by the government, because as the governments are learning it, they're trying to put more obstruction on Google, Facebook, and Amazon of the world. But there'll be a lot of rogue companies will come up, and they will create more problem in the future.
The genie is already out of the bottle, right? So
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Back in is not going to happen easily. Fair point. Right. So, there are a couple of questions, just shifting gears slightly before we come back to, this whole AI. There's a question here from Deepak. We're saying this, tell us a little more about your tech startup that you're on. And Shreya's got an interesting question. Maybe you could link it to the first question. It says, given your extensive experience, could you share some real world examples of AI has already impacted job roles and industries? So in your context, when you look at BRISKPE, how do you see that, AI is impacting the way you are thinking about BRISKPE now? Then let's say you would have done that had it been, let's say, even 3 or 5 years earlier.
Yeah, I just touched upon that earlier. Like, see, to look like a risk assessment and a fraud detection, AI definitely helps me a lot. So probably I'll see, obviously AI needs a lot of data to really learn about it. But today what is happening, there are a lot of companies which have done this. Like, I'll just give an example. There's a company like Refinitiv. See, for example, I'm doing a cross-border payment. No Osama bin Laden or Nirav Modi should go through me. Even one goes through, my startup is finished. So that is what you need to really look at a risk modeling, because there is no fraud or a large level money laundering thing should go through you. So before that, if the AI would not have been there, you have to put a lot of processes. You have to put lot many people, and everything has to go manually. You need to wait, and there'll be a lot of time in doing it. So today, my promise is today, like, almost like an instant settlement. I'm working for something where cross-border payment can be settled like a UPI. So that's not a dream. I can do it, but obviously today it will not be free of cost. There'll be charged because it'll be money involved kind of thing. But I'm looking at almost like an instant settlement. How that is possible? Because I can do a risk assessment and fraud detection very quickly. I can do a scoring. I can also risk scoring. I can also do a fraud prevention model which is available, because there are a lot of model available. I can retrain that model to learn about my activities, cross-border activities, and and put the kind of risk scoring plus modeling can help me to really. The idea is that 95% should not get affected. That 5% risk cases should get stuck, and then it should be manually cleared kind of thing. So that is what it should be. Again, I'll give an example in an insurance perspective, you'll understand. See, we all heard that you have to do a medical. How many people actually get write up after a medical? We all do medical, right? When you are trying to buy insurance, because insurance guy want to find out whether you have the right health or not. They don't want to what we call as a health which is not okay to really bring into the pool which is okay pool, right? They need to pay more to come to that pool. Okay, that is the whole thing. 93% people actually go through without any rate up. Only 7% actually get rated up. But company does medical for all 100% of the cases. So first of all, it's a waste of time. First of all, it's like, it takes your time, and you are also irritated. People really scared to take another insurance policy, फिर medical करना पड़ेगा. So if the scoring could have predicted this 5% or 7% or 10%, then the job would have been so much more easier, right? So that is exactly what we want to do. So so if you look at cross-border payments are really, there are 4 basic problems. One is it's very costly. PayPal charges almost 8%, 4% for Forex, and 4% for transaction charges. Bank charges for the MSMEs I'm talking about. Bank charges between 2 to 3% for the Forex. Like all our cards, you must have seen. Anytime you do a swipe a card, any international location, there'll be 2 to 3% cut on the Forex charge, because you will never get an interbank rate or whatever the rate you see in XC.com or a Google. What the price, you'll always get 2% lower or 3% lower. And then you'll see a month end, there'll be some other charges coming in, that is called transaction charges. You'll never notice that. But if you add those charges, everything will come to 5 to 6%. I don't know how many of you know it. Average money movement cost between two geographies is 6.5%. So just imagine if there's $100 billion remittance coming in, $7 billion is actually going for charges. So this is not funny. During my childhood, we used to pay 3% per money order, where money moving to here to the other places. Okay, that took small amount of money. That has to be 3%. Post office used to charge 3%. But today with EPI, it is 0. So money movement should ideally be 0. Obviously, there'll be cross-border becoming 0 is very, very difficult, because there are multiple level of this, because of this money laundering, screening, AML and all. There are multiple causes, but it should not be 7%. So our endeavor is how to really, so our proposition is we want to give it 1% or less than 1%. We don't charge money on Forex, because Forex is not, see, whatever is the conversion I want to give that, I am taking care of the transaction. That's why I'm charging 1%. I want to do it in 1 day. My promise currently is 1 day. In 3 months time, I'm to move to almost like an instant settlement if there is no issues in the transaction, or that nobody's clear of the, because there are a lot of banks involved. They might say that, I want to check compliance, recheck compliance. Third is, it's like, whenever money comes in, you can see the money has come in. See, today, if there is, you are getting money from abroad, you will never know till the time it hit your bank. Then bank will ask you for a purpose code at 3 o'clock. Then he'll send a purpose code. He'll say, "नहीं, आज का तो bank बंद हो गया, Forex का ये कल सुबह में देखूंगा." So after 2 days, it gives it. So my idea is that you end to end you can do. And there is something called a FIRA, and the portal. So any exporter has to go to government portal and to set it up that he has to put his invoice, and then he set it up, and after he gets a payment. Because government want to see that there should not be no money laundering and other things happening. All these things are manual today, and import is completely manual. If you want to even import or invest in a startup, foreign startup, you have to go to the bank, sit there, do the paperwork and come in. So the next we want to pick up for imports. So India is talking about $2 trillion export by 2030. Today it is around $770 billion, and more than 50% of MSME. Just imagine $1 trillion in 2030 will be MSME exports. And this is, they are facing this kind of basic level of problems, right? So how can we really able to help them? And I believe this is not a one company win it all. There are more than 150 banks operate in this segment. I'm sure there'll be more than 5 or 10 startup will be there. It's like a edutech startup. It will never be game of 1 or 2 startups. It will be multiple use cases and multiple people working. And there are a lot of this, again, if you look at like a chatbot, virtual assistants are come and help most of the financial companies. If I go higher than if you look at now the algo trading has come in. What is algo trading? Algo trading is nothing but, see, all the big advisors, they're using certain kind of modeling in their brain to really help you and do that. That is now institutionalized. Now everybody in the business can get that kind of advantage. So what, and the same thing as a regulatory compliance, anti-money laundering, know your customer, robo advisors. There are many ways. If you look at fintech, probably will be disrupted majorly by AI. But I think for a fintech perspective, it's a good disruption, because that's the only way I can actually do a better service or better value to customers compared to large behemoths. Today I can give that, 1% when the banks charge 5%, having almost zero capital base, because I am supported by AI or the tools, they are run on AI kind of thing.
Great. I think, in a world where the P2P transactions, for example, in India are moving, where the MDR is moving towards 0, I think the 6%, 7% for the, foreign remittance seems like a very, very juicy, target, I think, for the fintech companies to focus on, right? So in this, Sanjay, I think now with the India stack, looking at, doing integrations, let's say, for example, with Singapore and I think the governments of Dubai, are you looking at building on top of the India and the UPI stack, or is it something that you're trying to kind of replicate, separately?
We currently we are working something like a virtual account kind of thing. So what we are trying with slightly different. See, if you look at India stack is more towards P2P. My business model is more towards the trade at the moment, because I want to do the export import first. I'm not really doing on P2P, because P2P limits are much more lower. If the India stack, what they have done on pay now kind of linkage, it is only $1,000. So $1,000 will not really solve my purpose. When I'm trying to support the traders, $1,000.
Sorry, what's the average value for MSME that you typically see in the business?
So it obviously, if you look at a PayPal merchant, it will be probably $1,000 to $2,000. But if you look at most of the trade is between $5,000 to $15,000. So basically, any trader which is doing around $100,000 monthly is like my target segment, $100,000 to $150,000 monthly kind of thing. Basically, $1 million in a year or $1 million to $2 million in a year is like my target segment. Anything more than that is like not my target segment. But I think the segment which is growing is a B2B e-commerce. So B2B e-commerce today, or like a cross-border e-commerce today is only $3 billion. Government has a plan to take it to $300 billion by 2030. So because there are so many B2B e-commerce platforms today available, and so many Alibaba is a very good example. A lot of Indian merchants buy from Alibaba and the small value in the plates, cups, and all those things you just order from Alibaba kind of thing. So that's a kind of area which will really, really grow, and that will be very small value. That is where PayPal operates. PayPal does billions of dollar business from India and charge 8%. Just imagine 8% just moving the money. So it doesn't affect the service industry that much, because as a professional or something, you can always increase your price by some extent to offset that. But for a manufacturer, he cannot raise his price by 10%, right? Because it will reduce his competitiveness. And any time it takes, it actually increases his interest burden. So the manufacturing segment will really do a huge impact.
But just to understand, sorry, go ahead.
Yes, sir. No. So what we are trying to do is basically creating a local account for you so that party can pay you locally. So what we are trying to reduce is that cross-border money movement for everyone. I will move money once. Basically, I can create your account in all the geographies, all the important geographies. So the party can pay to your local account. So there is no cross-border. Party is not really going through a cross-border leg. Your party is going through a local leg. At one go, I'm bringing all the money together. So that's how I'm reducing the time and cost.
So you're kind of moving in terms of a pooled account, which then gets distributed across. Okay.
Yeah.
And you don't see any regulatory challenges? I mean, we've had problem in my previous startup, with the FATF and the KYC requirements for creating these pooled virtual accounts, right? I mean, any regulatory, how are we just going about that?
So we have taken OPGSP license from RBI, and this is allowed. And again, money is not touching my account; it is coming to my Nostro Bank, and Nostro Bank is distributing. So I am not touching the money at any go. So I am holding on the money. The money, once it reaches India, it is distributed by Yes Bank is my banking partner. So, and I cannot hold on money in that account. So government has given 5 days or 7 days to distribute the money.
A pretty interesting, elegant solution on that, I must say. So Sanjay, there's a very interesting question by Arman. He's just saying that you obviously have spent close to 3 decades working in large MNCs, and now you're wearing a different hat of entrepreneur. So how do you really see the difference? I'm sure the difference would have been significant. And also, my question on top of that is, how did you really reskill yourself or rethink about being an entrepreneur?
Okay, very early in my career, I decided I will never work for a competition or the same industry, because I was very passionate. I tried to build brands, I spent money in building businesses. I always worked I joined Pepsi, but I went and worked for Frito-Lay. Similarly, I joined Reliance Infocomm during those days. I joined Mattel when they're coming to toys, coming first time to India. Like toys was there, always sold as more like a what do you say, nearest toy store. There'll be never toy shops kind of thing in India, foreign markets. When Mattel come in 20-25 years back, so I was the first one to really build their Barbie and Hot Wheels and Fisher Price kind of brands in India. Then I moved to Reliance, but I looked at the people have never known about mobile phones, except for the top 50 markets. So I looked at how it can go to next 1,000 markets. I looked at how to do. I don't know whether you are there in US that point of time, or else you would have used the Reliance India call. I launched that. Again, a digital calling card sitting here. Obviously, in a WhatsApp call time or this LinkedIn call, you don't require it. But during those days, it was a boon. I created a $100 million business 20 years back within 6 months' time, just by creating digital calling card kind of thing. So I was looking at something new in every sector, disrupting that business. Again, I went to insurance. I created a Sarutake Geo campaign, and I did Click to Protect, which is an online way of selling life insurance, which is again unthinkable if you look at 15 years back kind of thing. So I will always try to do things in that sector which has never been done before, and pushing myself to be in that situation. in corporates never promote someone doing something new. Corporates like doing the same thing better, right? But I always choose those kind of things. I always choose a new industry which helps me to think something new. And I did a very thing. After the IPO happened, I actually went to Stanford to reskill myself. I went for an advanced management program. So while in Stanford, I met a lot of, in San Francisco, I met a lot of startups. I met a lot of founders. What I realized that, what our India ecosystem lacks is like help to make it to the next level. So what happens in India, everybody thinks money is something as a savior. If I get a next round, then, I'll be successful. You must have seen during this down phase, half of the startups are really, really struggling. So what I wanted to bring to the India is something like I learned from there is something like a startup studio. So as a founder, you know X, but you don't know YZ. So rather than struggling in YZ, you give it to professional. And once you raise Series A, you can actually hire people and you can have your good team to do it. So at early stage, you'll not struggle to do all the things which you're not really good at. So that's what I was doing. So I worked with multiple ideas. It kept me fresh. It kept me mind energetic and, and thinking about the new ideas constantly. So what helped? Also, I invested in a lot of startups. So again, you'll only learn if you've gone deeper into it. So over the period of time, I learned there are 3 things required for a startup success. One is resilience. Hard work and second, finding the real problem, which is a genuine problem. It is not that, it is not a fancy thing which other people are doing. It is about, are you really solving a genuine need? And if you really go and tell the solution to 5 people, are they really excited about it? So, and third is that, you can't do everything. So can you get a complementary team to really do it? And they should be really good in terms of doing it. Obviously, then the next stage is how do you select the next 10 people? And while building my team also working, I realized it is not the, the marquee employees, IIT, IIM, or coming from this company or something. It is if anyone has seen a Moneyball movie, that I really go by that, it is about our Rajasthan Royal team. It is not about the marquee player. It is about a team which can play which can play like a team. If you can really think of 3 or 4 such things will happen. And as you start building a good, you work on a good value proposition, give a good solution, and things will come, and money and everything will come. So that's what I believe in life. And also I challenge myself. I try to run a marathon every year at a slightly faster than last year. So that way, personally, it kept me agile and better.
Wonderful. So you've actually always been an entrepreneur of some sort, right? I mean, you've always worked for large companies, but you've always focused on launching the products and launching new stuff, right? In that sense.
Yeah.
So you were saying something, Sanjay? There's a bit of
I said there is a term called intrapreneur or something. So
that's right.
In companies, I never knew that. After I came out, I realized that, okay, I was like, that's why I was thinking like that.
Absolutely. Wonderful. So there's an interesting question. You actually talked about, investing, and I think your profile says you've invested in more than 20 plus startups. So Shana is really asking, saying, given your background as an angel investor, what criteria do you typically look for when deciding to invest in a startup? And what advice do you have for aspiring entrepreneurs seeking investment?
No, again, I see, as I said, I made more money in investing startups rather than helping startups. Like in helping startups, there is almost no money because you don't know. Because helping, I can only help the people who are coming to me, right? But investing, I can always choose. So it is like, like as a tuition teacher, you can only teach students who are coming to you. But while applying for an institute, you can always choose a better institute where you want to go and do. So 3 things I looked at, obviously, I think that's like a primary school student. If you go back to our, like a startup, when they start is like a primary school student. But in a primary school student, also the teacher will keep on telling, I don't know whether you remember, if you're a good student, you'll remember your third, one day will come and say that, you'll, like, उस time में तो कोई बोलता था IAS officer बनोगे, engineer बनोगे, and this thing. Because he tried to figure that out, like, from certain characteristics that, this will go. So again, I just said the same thing I applied for myself, when investing. Is it the right sector or is the fancy sector? Like Web3, people will talk about Web3, they'll like talk about NFTs kind of thing. So don't go for the next thing which you which is looking fancy. Second thing, like look at whether it is a real problem they're really solving or not. Is it really a large market or not? And what is the competition? What is the competition moat which is there? So it is not because it is cheap. See, a lot of people invest, it is very early, very cheap, let me invest something. It is not about that. It is what is the competitive moat they're building. And, early stage, again, not much data is available. It is about founders. Okay. If you've got a good set of founders, and have they really seen in their life of doing something? You can go slightly more deeper into that. So good set of founders, a real problem, and they have a competitive moat, or they have created something which is, it can be on technology, it can be on proposition, it can be on understanding customer. So what is that which actually excites you? So these are the 3 or 4 core element actually attracts me to a startup. Then obviously I do deep dive. Then also I looked at more like what we call as a collective intelligence kind of thing. So I don't invest anymore of my own alone. So I invest with Stanford Angels or something. So that collectively, so there is a very good book as a collective intelligence kind of thing. So you can actually wisdom of the crowd. So again, it's a very old book. But if you read that, you'll realize that when a crowd does certain things, they do mostly right. Because that's the process and madness, like it happens. So if you have, it is very easy, what I've realized that, if a startup, I'm not really convinced in, very few people are actually coming in there. But startup, you are convinced more people actually coming in. That gives you next level of confidence. So again, it's a learning process. Startup investing is risky. Okay, it will not be 100% success any time. Nobody has 100% success, not even a VC funds kind of thing. But it will be 20-25% success is very good in this thing. And by the way, when you are any field, 20-25% success is very good. So if you ask Tendulkar or Rahul Dravid, what is his success? Actually, it's 25%, because Tendulkar, unless scoring 50, you think it is not successful. 50 will sell its average, because his average is 50. So 50 is not success for him, right? But how many innings he has played and how many innings he has scored 100? So it will be less than 15-20%. So that's what you have to look at in startup investing. So you are going at the right indication, you are doing all the due diligence, but something will still go wrong. But as long as you follow your process, more likely you'll be right.
I think getting a 25% hit rate in a startup is beyond good, because it tends to be.
That's what I was telling, But what happens, everybody looks at every time hit. That is how you have to train your mind like a VC firm, 1 in 10, 1 in 50, 15% hit rate is a good enough for me types.
Right. So again, shifting gears and heading back towards this whole topic about AI. There's a pretty interesting question, slightly long, but a pretty interesting question by IC Sebastian. So he's saying, hello Sanjay, thanks for your time here. Given the pace at which AI and tech are progressing and complementing our lives, we are already living in a fused world. Should we not stop calling it digital world and physical world already? Simply call and treat it as a single fused world. Shouldn't the tech companies and startups lead the way in changing the narrative and treat it as one world? Then this narrative around AI replacing humans could disappear faster and be seen merely as AI being a tool humans use for progress. Your thoughts, please.
No, I think, the people will also sometimes go back for earlier world. For example, I'll give you my example. When I go for running, I don't carry a phone or anything. I don't want to be disturbed. I don't want that, constant 24/7. But, but what has happened, what we need to take control of our life. So world will keep on changing. But we need to be focused in our lives in saying that, how can we, it is almost saying that, human beings are, what I realize in my life, that we have got a lot more we can achieve if we can push ourselves. Okay, so it is just imagine, you are going, the roads are changing, roads are changing, but you will always find different ways to really conquer that road. So rather than bothered about calling the world is changing kind of thing, saying that we need to ask this question: are we really changing faster than the world is changing? So you have to take charge of your life. You have to take charge of saying that how can I focus my time in upscaling? How can you adapt to adapting to automation? If AI comes in, AI will require 4 jobs, right? It will require an ethical guy to manage AI. It will require a programmer machine learning programmer. It will require some cyber security administrator. There'll be multiple new roles will come in. See, it will require someone in government to really formulate the policy level AI. So again, government public policy is not a big discipline in India, right? It's the IS officer. We think they are doing public, but but if you look at foreign government, public policy plays a very, very important role. I believe people will study public policy more going forward, because these are the kind of things will become much more powerful, because they will control the big organizations. They will control the government narratives. They will control the tech going forward, because no country will allow the tech to go a free flow going forward, because they will have the regulation around it. Why countries want the servers to be in their own area? Because they don't want the data to go abroad. They will sometimes I think the Time will come, then you will say, look, you can only ping and, like what other is doing. Like, you can get data for me once when you are doing this thing. You cannot store or keep this data anywhere in this thing. I think that rule is going to come. I think there are I think we are probably the world is changing more quickly in last 5 years than, what has happened in the last 25 years. That's how we are feeling the change. But I think, human beings are pretty adjustable. They will find whether you call it a fuse world or a digital world, they will find their way to really run with it and, do better than that. Human always in my life have seen their bit the take or the challenges, and I am sure they'll find their way.
Yeah. We'll be fine. I mean, that's basically what so you touched upon ethics slightly in your last answer, just to kind of, double click on that and go a little deeper. There's a couple of interesting questions. There's one question which is saying that what will be the societal impact of AI, and, how do we think? Of course, not that we all have answers. One question is about the people who get displaced job, by an AI job or by a robot. Should we be thinking in terms of, let's say, a UBI, a universal basic income? There have been pretty interesting thoughts around that. There's a, add-on question to that. And many years back, Bill Gates actually made a pretty interesting observation. He says, currently, whenever you employ people, you obviously have income tax on all of them. But you replace those people and you replace them with machines and robots and AI, where's the tax gone, right? So should we be taxing, AI and robots on that? And I think the third question that we could probably think about is that if eventually AI is going to be pervasive, it is going to rule us, it's going to impact us through our life, how do we train AI to be objective, to play God? Because if you think of it, end of the day, it is basically being trained on data, on internet data, right? And there will be biases that's going to come in through the data, So how do we really train this AI? Who's going to train it? Who's going to decide what's really going to be that? So some thoughts on this. It's a pretty interesting area on ethics in AI, but would love your thoughts.
Well, see, again, this area is evolving, right? See, like before we create a monster, we never know that, actually it is turning into monster. That is what, unfortunately, we all know or we have seen in the past. So I think the issues Ajay said previously, the issues are genuine. I think the income disparity between the groups will increase in the early stages first, because the loss of jobs are happening at the level where they are not skilled, right? It is replacing what we call as a blue collar job, factory, like Amazon already had 200,000 robots, in their subfloor, so those are the kind of jobs, are the bank teller jobs, those are the kind of jobs will be replaced first. As you rightly said, the social disparity will increase. I think good government. I think a couple of countries are really started thinking about it, like Singapore and all. They can reskill those segments before time. I think, you don't have to wait. See, when the disruption happens, then you can't do anything. But 5 years or 3 years before the disruption, if the speed is happening towards that, you can actually work on reskilling that segment, so that, they have got two other opportunity to do that. As I said, human beings are adaptive. If they get an opportunity, they can be trained differently, kind of thing. But that needs to be done, and it has to be done in a very large scale. But again, today with technology availability, you can do that. Today someone can read about in any subject, sitting before a YouTube or something. But that needs to be really propagated in the company. To give an example, if the company need to make it sure that, unless you reskill yourself or 2 new skills you learn, your salary will decrease. You not giving promotion, still okay. But if your salary will decrease, people will definitely do it. Unfortunately, people who work towards a negative negative emotion or negative triggers, I think that those are the kind of things can be done for doing it on a large scale basis before time. Second thing, on a privacy concern, there are many things which will really concerning in a privacy concern, and it will continue to happen. Today anyone can disrupt anything which is going on today, and governments will continue. Government will be always doing a catching up kind of thing. So that's a big worry in the privacy area. It is not that you can't put a policy, but even if you put a policy, you will not come to know before the damage has been done. In most cases. So I think this is what the most of the government need to work collectively to really put this thing like they're working on a blockchain or be like if you look at a CBDC kind of environment in the monetary segment, rather than going for making it legalized for stable coins, they're trying to make a CBDC coin, and how interoperability will happen. So similarly, all the AI of different government protocols has AI. There has to be worldwide AI protocol. Every country need to follow that. And anything there is something happening, it should really upgrade the protocol. And any AI model anywhere, if it is not following the basic protocol, they should not be allowed to operate. Something like that, has to really come in, and governments have to take initiative. Obviously, all government cannot come together. Few government coming together, following a protocol that can be improved over a period of time. The other worry is the biases and fairnesses. I think I'm more worried about that, because the models only learn from what they've seen, right? World is not equal. World is unequal. That is why world is existing that way. If you look at racial biases and all those things, there are multiple biases pervasive in the society. I don't want to read that. It can be religious biases. It can be racial biases. And all these models will learn on that, even if the biases existed, not because it is there in the society, it is in our mind. So whatever we are actually developing and doing, so these biases will be there. So having a fairness from AI model over it will be tougher relatively as it starts learning from all of us, because we all carry biases, and these biases will get into the modeling only. And the lack of control is real, and security risk is real. So what again, this is a model because it's learning from us. So after some time, the owner cannot really control it, right? Because it's almost like open source kind of thing. So I think somewhere it need to be regulated in terms of like putting certain barriers, saying that certain areas it cannot really go, or certain areas it cannot relearn based on something which is fed to it, so that cybersecurity risk is minimized, kind of thing. And creativity, I am not so much with the and I don't know whether or not. There are two kind of movie making happens by two ways. One is that every studio has writers. Okay, like Columbia has 20 writers who continuously write about new movie. There is at the same time there are guys where who actually give the new whatever new story to the new story to the studios. So they take from both, and whichever good survives. So I think as long as we stay creatively higher, we'll survive before the AI. So it is not that AI can take it, but anytime we are doing an average stuff, it will go. So the message is, do we stick to the average stuff, or do we doing high quality stuff? So it should push us to really think differently and doing high quality stuff.
Great. I think this has been a wonderful 50 minutes that we spent, and maybe just moving to one concluding question. Something that I think all of us think about. Do you think we are close to AGI? General AI. Are we anywhere close to general AI? All the movies talk about the singularity, the time when the AI becomes sentient, conscious, aware. When it kind of eventually surpasses the human mind. So I know we don't have the answers, but what are your thoughts around that? I mean, what are the experts that you've spoken to? What do you think? Are we anywhere close to an AGI right now?
No, see, something if somebody would have told you about generative AI 3 years back, you would have laughed at it. You will not see that it is coming and doing so much kind of changes. But yes, everything is possible. See, what I've seen in the world, because I've seen for a slightly longer period of time, I think anything is possible. But good part is that we will learn how to utilize the best part of it. If you look at every time any new technology or anything come in, it has got a disruptive power. But disruptive power eventually got controlled. In the sense, the nuclear bomb is a great example. It is not that 50 nuclear bomb. Everybody, like so many nuclear powers are there. They kept it to scare people rather than they could actually bomb people. So what I realized that over a period of time, we'll have ethical AI policies. We'll have our education system will support this thing. See, for example, my daughter's school now. So initially they fought against ChatGPT, right? Because kids are now writing all assignment through ChatGPT. So now they're saying, if you're doing ChatGPT, please give a citation. So that you have utilized ChatGPT and you have enhanced your thing. So now the kid is really think, acha, main ChatGPT se ye liya, but what else I need to write above that to so that it goes as a citation rather than it goes by as my project. So the teachers become smarter. So teachers first time they revolted, they said, okay, now you have to do manual exam. But they didn't really succeed that going back to the earlier past. They said, okay, let me just use so that they are now telling student, use ChatGPT, but use that as a citation. Learn from it and then put your mind to it and say that how you can better that. So I think I think all technology will become our assistant and help us to do better. It is like how mobiles help, how 5G help, how the Wi-Fi help kind of thing. I think the more people what I see, I'm much more optimistic. I'm a pretty optimistic person. So I believe that it'll help the world in a better way. Yes, it'll have some disruption, but more people will benefit from it, and it'll help in a better way. the opportunities are immense, but what we need to work towards, government and as a society, we need to work for the opportunities rather than, the fears.
Wonderful. So I think just to I think the key takeaway is be an eternal optimist. I think, we can definitely be long on technology, long on AI. I mean, there's no reason to be worried about the disruption is coming, because the opportunity that will probably open up for us is far more. It will far outweigh any negative, connotation that the technology will kind of bring. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time. I think the audience would have really loved it, and have a good evening.
Thank you.